A lot of people ask me what GIS is and what the benefits of GIS are to an assessor's office. So I thought it would be helpful to first and foremost give a quick definition of my interpretation of what GIS is and what it constitutes, and then go through some of the examples of how assessors are actually implementing these for tangible, positive results within their jurisdictions. I think a lot of folks in the profession have different interpretations of what GIS is based on their professional responsibilities and interactions with it. To me, GIS is really anything that relates to a coordinate-based system. Typically, what comes to mind is latitude and longitude. Any sort of software or records or procedures that have to do with this underlying grid system based on location, I believe constitutes GIS. A lot of people ask me what the benefit of GIS is to the modern day assessor's office. There are a lot of case studies and examples of tangible positive impacts that GIS has in the assessor's office, but I typically like to boil it down to two main things. More fair and equitable valuations at a reduced cost. I think one of the more familiar functions of GIS within an assessor's office would relate to land records, cadastre, and parcel management. So being able to reflect and also change any sort of parcel boundaries and to reflect ownership and transfers. GIS is also one of the underlying mechanisms that allows data to be collected both accurately and efficiently. It's what's tied to street level imagery when we're collecting those image data, when we are collecting any sort of aerial or flyover data, as well as extracting any sort of point data that may be tied to an open data set or any sort of feature that we want to extract and pair with the CAMA data that we have in our systems. GIS is also used to review the accuracy and quality of our data. So for example, plotting it on a map to making sure that there are no incorrect or missing data before that we go in and program our valuation models. An example of this could be plotting age or condition in a particular neighborhood or market area and inspecting for any sort of outliers that could either be reflective of a rare property or perhaps a data entry error. Also, for example, mapping out waterfront status to ensure that properties are accurately coded. If we saw a waterfront coded property in the middle of a landlocked area or a non-waterfront property that's located right on the beach, this gives us an extra measure for quality control to make sure that our data are reflective of the properties. Spatial modeling refers to when GIS is incorporated into any sort of modeling process that's used. In assessor's offices, this is a method that's able to produce location adjustments, which we can then use to update our CAMA tables. Also, there's more granular location adjustments that spatial modeling allows us to kind of quantify with regard to accessibility or proximity analysis. If we want to see if distance to foreclosures or distance to parks or beaches or public transportation impact values, this is kind of where spatial modeling comes into play. Some of the more advanced spatial modeling techniques end up falling underneath the artificial intelligence or machine learning umbrella. Essentially, these are much more complex spatial modeling algorithms that are enabling assessors to estimate market value with fewer variables and significantly reduced data collection costs. I think one of the more overlooked benefits of GIS to the assessor's office is with regard to quality control. Being able to map out valuation performance, looking for inequities, for example, plotting out CODs and PRDs on a map This allows assessors to formulate a strategy. Where do our problems lie, and where are we sort of okay with respect to valuations and equity. This saves assessors time and money, making sure that money and time is only spent in areas that need it. And we do not have to go out and, quote, fix what ain't broke. Also, defensibility of valuations. Some folks say in the industry, I've heard a number of times, during appeals, the party with the best maps typically win. I think that they really do convey more of a narrative. It explains and gives justification, if done properly, for the adjustments that we made during the valuation process. We can show before and after maps after we've made particular adjustments to properties and neighborhoods. We can use that to convey trust in another party that we have done our due diligence as assessors and gone through and inspected our valuations with a fine-tooth comb and made sure that they are fair and equitable. And lastly, public interaction. GIS is a massive component, and a critical component in enabling assessors to communicate information with the public as well as retrieve important information. For example, being able to share an interactive map with the taxpayer or the community that reflects property characteristics, ownership changes, and also being able to retrieve information. So assessors aren't just using GIS to put out information, but also have the public feed information back to them. For example, if I go in and log on and see that my property is, some of the physical attributes are inaccurate, maybe the assessor has my property at 4 bathrooms when I really only have 2. Some assessors are using this to retrieve correct information from the taxpayers. GIS is going to continue to change the way assessors do their jobs as it continues to evolve. We're going to see increased data collection capabilities, increased spatial models that are able to produce more fair and equitable valuations. We're already starting to see spatial machine learning come into the picture to be able to show assessors specifically where and what types of properties are causing their inequities. Essentially, we're going to see increased efficiencies and increased accuracies as GIS capabilities continue to develop. If you'd like to learn more about how GIS is actually being used to benefit today's modern assessment office, I encourage you to check out GIS for Property Tax and Assessment Professionals, recently released by the IAAO. You can get this on Amazon or the IAAO Research Library website. Thank you.